So in this video, I'm going to be doing an unboxing, setup and review of the Coldcard MK4 Bitcoin hardware wallet. I've actually had a Mark III Coldcard for a while now. It's featured in a number of my videos, but never had a review video of its own. Mark IV has been out for a while now, but there have been some interesting features that have been released in the firmware updates for the Mark IV, so I thought I'd go ahead and pick one up. No freebies here, and do a proper review video for the Coldcard. And if you haven't already done so, hit subscribe and that way you can stay in the loop for content I make to help you find your way in the crazy and often hostile environment that is cryptocurrency. So when you get a Coldcard, this is what you get, just a fairly nondescript box. And inside the box, we have a tamper evident bag complete with a serial number. Alright, so this is everything that was in the bag. And the first things first, we've got this here, which is the serial number of the tamper evident bag. You can see that these three numbers all match. It also comes with a recovery word sheet, which also includes the device pin, anti-phishing words and mnemonics, and some instructions on the back. Also comes with some stickers and the Coldcard Mark IV itself. Now, this is where you're going to start to notice how the Coldcard is actually quite different to most other hardware wallets on the market. First and foremost, it doesn't come in sort of like a decorative box with product pictures and a lot of sort of stuff all over it, just a tamper-proof bag. While most wallets will include all sorts of documentation and instructions and all that sort of written material with it, this includes pretty much the recovery card and a little bit of instructions on the back. It doesn't even come with a lot of extra stuff like USB cables. You know, just the basics is what we have here. So this is the Coldcard itself. And one of the good things about the Mark IV actually now is it comes with a protective cover that also can just slide onto the back, which is very handy. And if we just put it alongside the Mark III Coldcard, you can see the form factor is pretty much the same. The size is the same. MicroSD slot is in the same spot, though you will notice that the Mark IV has a USB-C connector, not a micro USB connector. If we power it up for the first time, there we go. So we've got the standard sort of terms. So this is really cool. You can actually see when we first power it on, it actually gives us this serial number here, which is identical to the one that is on all the bags, helping you to be confident that the device was not tampered with during transit. So we verify those numbers match and we are ready to move on. Let's start by choosing a PIN code. This is a bit different from normal devices in that you'll notice the PIN is in two halves. The way the PIN works, particularly if you forget it, is another example of how this device isn't really targeted at newbies and doesn't hold your hand in the same way as like a Ledger or a Trezor or something like that. So definitely make sure that you take the time to write this down. If you forget it, you cannot wipe the device. The device is bricked. We'll scroll down to the bottom and say OK. And here we go. So it actually gives you that warning a second time, just in case you missed it. There is no way to factory reset the device. Press 6 to prove you read the end of this. 6. So now we're going to enter our PIN prefix. So for the sake of the video, I'll just do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and say yes. So now, firstly, what we're going to do is I'll actually write down these ones, and I'm going to write down these two words, and then tick. Now I enter the rest of the PIN. So we'll just do 7, 8, 9, 0. And ticked. And now we're going to go back and enter the PIN prefix again. So basically, if we were to enter a different prefix, we would get a different anti-phishing words. Now we enter the rest of the PIN. And just in terms of illustration, I'll just show you what happens if you were to enter a different prefix. So if we say 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and hit enter, you'll see that we get a different set of anti-phishing words compared to what we are expecting that the correct PIN would have given us. So if we see different words, we've either typed in the first part of our PIN wrong or something has been tampered with on our device. So we are just going to say we want new seed words, and we'll just let the device generate them for us. And we can actually choose how we want to do that. So we can choose 24 words by default, which is what we want. You can also choose 12 if you like, and you can also do 12 and 24 word seeds by using dice rolls for the entropy. And basically the ability to use dice rolls like this means that you don't have to place trust in the Coldcard itself to be generating secure randomness to be used in the seed, and it's also easy to verify the functionality of the dice rolls in a very similar way to what I showed in the Keystone video over here. Now, it's important to say there's nothing at all wrong with just using the default seed generation on the device itself, and we'll go for a 24 word seed just because it's got more entropy and the checksum is stronger. So we'll say OK. There we go. And here are our seed words. So we will write them down. And there we go. So now it's making us verify Verified every single word. No cutting corners. I love it. Enable NFC tap. You might not choose to use NFC, but I'm going to turn it on just to test it out because it's one of the new features that was added over the Mark III. So we'll say yes. Enable USB drive. And look, we'll turn that on too just to demonstrate it as well. Now before we do anything else on this, let's update the firmware. This has been sitting in my drawer for about a year, so that is seriously out of date. Okay, so let's just download the firmware update. It's probably in the docs. There we go. So this is the firmware we want here for the Mark IV. Because this supports the USB drive emulation mode, we can actually download the firmware straight onto here. First thing I need to do is connect this to the computer rather than just connecting it to a power supply. So we can actually see, oh, there we go. It actually just popped up with the Coldcard just in Windows File Explorer. So what we're going to do is we are just going to download this firmware update straight onto the Coldcard. There we go, you can actually see that's flashing now with the USB activity up, and it's already prompted us straight away. So we'll just say yes. And we're back. All right, so let's actually demonstrate how to use this device to send and receive Bitcoin. Right here is where we see another big difference between Coldcard and devices from other vendors in that there isn't any vendor supplied software. So what I'm going to do in this video is actually run through 3 different sets of wallet software and also 3 different modes of exchanging data between the Coldcard and the wallet software itself. Just because checking out new features is fun, we're going to start off with a mobile wallet Nunchuck using NFC. We'll just open that up. And what we're going to do is let's add some keys. So I want to say it's an NFC key and it's a Coldcard. So we've actually already done all of these things. So we'll say continue, continue, ready to scan. So we'll go down here to advanced tools, export wallet. Generic JSON. Okay, here we go. And we are going to press 3 to share via NFC. So let's try this. There we go. So there's a bunch of different derivation paths that they have given us here. Most of you probably just want to use this one here, which is the standard native SegWit derivation path. We've also got legacy SegWit, legacy, and then we've got some other ones that we can use for multisig. So we'll just click the top one, say done, say add key. There we go. So it has been added successfully. So what we'll do now is we'll just press plus. We will say that we want to create a new wallet. We'll just call it demo. Say continue. We'll choose we want to use the keys from the Coldcard. We're just going to go single sig wallet. And then we'll say continue. This is mostly only relevant for multi-sig wallets, not really applicable to single sig, so we'll just say I'll do that later. Okay, so now if I go into demo and hit receive, there is my address, and if I wanted to verify this address is correct, I can also go into Address Explorer. I'll press 4 to start. So basically what we can see here are the different sorts of addresses for the different account types, just on the 0th account number on the default path. So I'm just going to click on that one there, and we can actually see, and I'll just press 2 to show it as a QR. But we can see that this address here matches this address here, so it is safe to send some funds there. So I've just sent some Bitcoin to here, and there we go. So there is the Bitcoin. So what I want to do now is try and send these funds back to my tip wallet using NFC. So let's give that a go. So let's just send. And we'll just say send all and continue. And we'll create transaction. So let's say sign. Export transaction. On Coldcard, go ready to sign, yep, and then press 3. Coldcard is ready to sign transactions, put the MicroSD card in there, or upload a transaction using command line tools, or press 3 to send via NFC. So we'll press 3. Now, I've seen a lot of people having issues with this, so we'll see how this goes. Let's try again. No. This is a Galaxy S10, which doesn't seem to like it. Let's try on a different device. Okay, so that actually worked. So this is a Galaxy S20 and it actually worked. Let's just cancel and see if I just got lucky. No, it pretty much works every time with this one. So what we'll do is we'll just say sign, export transaction, and then we'll go into ready to sign and press 3. We'll put that on there. There we go. Now, just like when we were connected over USB, we can verify all of the transaction information and press tick to approve it. And now what we can do is we can scan the transaction back off here using NFC. So let's try. Oh, there we go. So that worked quite nicely. And I can just say broadcast. And there we go. So that transaction is pending now there in Nunchuck. Alright, so that's NFC. Now, it would seem a bit silly to do a video on a Coldcard without demonstrating air-gapped signing, so let's have a look at the ever-popular BlueWallet and how we move all the data around with a microSD card. First thing we're going to need for this is a microSD card. Any microSD card will do, even a tiny one. These transactions and things are only a couple of megabytes each. And basically what we're going to do now is we are going to go down into Tools, just like we did with NFC. We're going to export the wallet. And for BlueWallet, actually, we want to select Electrum Wallet here. That's the one we want to use. It tells us some information about what's about to happen. And again, because we don't need anything other than the first wallet, so the 0th wallet, we can just press tick. And in this instance, we actually need to scroll down to choose native SegWit. That's a good default and lines up with the account we were using in Nunchuck. So I'll just press tick. So we're back to a similar screen to what we have in Nunchuck. So firstly, you see we have an option to press 1 and save it to the microSD card. We can also press 2 and save it to the virtual disk because I still have that turned on from before, or we can press 3 to share it via NFC. So in this case, we want to save it to the microSD card, so we will press 1, and we can actually see it flash yellow when that happens. So we can just say tick, and now we'll just X back out to here, and we're done with here. So we'll take the microSD card out, put it into any random card reader, or we could stick it straight to the microSD slot on the phone, but this way is much easier. Basically over here we can just open up BlueWallet, and we can also just plug this into the phone, and we can actually see up the top there that it's picked it up. So what I'm going to do now is just say add new wallet. I'm going to say import wallet, and we're going to say scan or import a file. We are going to press this button here because we want to load it from a file. And basically, if I go in here, I can open mass USB drive. Wallet skeleton is this one here, not the fingerprint. So I'll just click on that and say import. Okay, there we go. And it's imported at watch only, but that doesn't matter. So if I click in there and just wait a second, all of the transactions that we made before will show up here. So if I want to receive Bitcoin into this wallet, I can just hit receive, and it gives me an address there. No, we don't need to have notifications. Now, in terms of verifying this receive address, we are going to use the address explorer over here on the Coldcard. We read this message before, so we'll just say forward to skip it for now. And basically, the address we want is still going to be the native SegWit here, starting with BC1. I can press 2, just like last time, to view the QR code. Now, the issue here is that this address we're seeing is the first address in the wallet, which we used before in Nunchuck, and it's actually already been used, which is why we're not seeing it over here in BlueWallet. So what we're going to do is actually scroll through the address explorer just using this 9 button until we get to the address we want. There you go. So we can see when we scroll through to the 4th address that we actually now have the matching address in BlueWallet here and on the Coldcard. So we know we can safely send funds to this address. It's also worth adding here that the other option you have with the Coldcard is to actually export a list of the account addresses to a microSD card, which you can then print out and file somewhere, so that you can refer to that and have confidence that the addresses you're seeing in your wallet software match those that were generated from the Coldcard. So we'll just send some Bitcoin there. All right, and that has now confirmed. So if we want to send funds from the Coldcard using the microSD, basically what we're going to do is say send. I've just scanned an address from my tip wallet. We'll just use full balance. Yep, and we'll say next, and basically this is the transaction. So what we're going to do is we just want to export this to a file. Yes, we'll allow it to do that, and that has now been put into our downloads folder. So now I just need to move that onto the microSD, so I'm just going to go into the file manager and put it in the downloads folder, so that's it right there. So we'll just copy that, and we will stick it onto USB storage 1. You can see that's where we had the skeleton files before, and then once we're done we can actually just unmount that as well. Now we can just take the microSD card. So we'll just press X and get the cold card back to the ready to sign screen. Stick the microSD card in, and we'll press tick. There we go. So there was actually only one PSBT file on there, so it's actually read it. So this is the transaction here, and we can confirm this is going to the address we expect. There we go. So now it has signed the transaction and put a new PSBT file on the microSD card. So if we stick that back in our card reader and then back into our phone, we can go back into BlueWallet and we can choose to open the signed transaction. And viewing them as tiles like this isn't very helpful, so I'll just press this button to view them like that. And we want the transaction, which is a number with then signed at the end. So I'll click on that, and that is the transaction. So I can just say send now, and those funds are sent. Now, the next thing I'll quickly show you is how to use the cold card over USB with Sparrow Wallet. One of the big reasons you might want to do that is to make receive address verification much easier. And you would have noticed that using the address explorer on the cold card itself is a fairly slow way to verify receive addresses. And if you are skipping the step of verifying receive addresses just because it's a bit too hard and you're lazy, you're actually undermining a lot of security that your cold card gives you. So we're connected back to a data port on the computer, so we'll just unlock this. Okay, we're ready to sign. So basically now that that's connected in Sparrow, we can just say File, New Wallet. We'll just call this Card MK4 Demo. And basically what we'll do is we'll say Connected Hardware Wallet. We'll just say Scan. And there is our cold card. And we can see if we show derivation by default, it'll just do the standard native SegWit one, which is the same one we imported to Nunchuck earlier. So if I just say import key store, basically it's pulled all the information from our cold card. So if I just say apply, I won't worry about a password. We can see the same wallet now that we had in Nunchuck is in Sparrow. Key thing now in Sparrow is if I hit receive, I can actually just click this button right here to display address. So basically with one click, I have the address with a nice big font on the cold card itself, so I can be sure that nothing is tampering with Sparrow, there's nothing messing with my clipboard that might be tampering with the address. I'll just send another 20 bucks. And we can now see those funds I sent there have appeared both in Sparrow and in Nunchuck as well. Sending funds connected via USB is also very fast and easy. And look, I'll just use the next receive address as an example. If I just go in to send the funds, there, just create the transaction. Basically here I can just finalize for signing and I can sign the transaction over USB. There's my cold card, I can just click sign and I can verify all the details of the transaction here. There we go. And then I can just say broadcast. Now, I'll just quickly show you some of the more advanced functionality as well. You can make a digital backup of your wallet. So these 12 words that it's giving you here are actually not your recovery seed. They are different to that. What these 12 words are is a key to decrypt a digital backup that it will create on the microSD card. Because the encryption and the decryption is all happening on the cold card itself, this is one of the few instances where having digital copies of your seed can actually be done safely. This still does not take the place of a physical backup of your seed. And this is also where you can export the wallet as just a sort of wallet skeleton without connecting them over USB. Your file management actually has a bunch of stuff under it. You can sign text files, BIP85 seeds, so this allows us to have multiple seeds derived from a single master seed. It can be useful if you've got a bunch of different wallets. Viewing identity basically lets us see the fingerprint of our master key. Ephemeral seed, that allows us to put it in a seed that is forgotten when the device is powered down, so that's pretty much like a stateless operation. So paper wallet, basically if you go in there, this gives you the ability to just have single private keys that are not derived from your recovery seed that are saved onto the memory card. So they're sort of like one-time use thing, old school paper wallets. Most of the time you don't want to be using them. HSM mode lets you do some automation and some very clever things. We won't worry about that in detail. User management goes into that. NFC tools has a bunch of things we can do over NFC. Danger zone is where the dangerous stuff happens. The main thing in danger zone that most users might want to use is to verify their seed words, to do a seed XOR, or to lock down or destroy the seed. Basically meaning that you can have this device be set up to be working in such a way that it has the private keys saved on here, but you can't simply go back and view the seed words. Likewise, it's actually also possible to apply a passphrase to the seed that is stored in here and then lock the seed down. So there's no way for someone to get the seed words or the passphrase back out of the device, even if they have it and have the PIN. Alright, so let's have a look at some of the normal settings. So if we go into there, we can go into login settings. So we can set a bunch of clever pins that can do things like take us to different wallets or even brick the whole device if we want. Change the countdowns and so on. Well, as a MicroSD 2FA, it's actually very similar to the SD Protect on a Trezor, except, you know, in the classic Coldcard fashion, it just wipes everything if it's wrong. We can go into hardware on off and turn different functions on and off. We have multisig wallets, which we can register on the device itself, a very important security feature if you're using multisig. We can choose the units that's displayed in, information about fees, timeouts, and so on. Keyboard MU mode. So this actually is very clever in that it allows us to have this type passwords out to our PC over USB, but to derive all those passwords off the hardware wallet itself. And I'll just show you what that does. So on the left here, I've just got a text editor. So if I say type passwords, I can choose the index of the passwords. So if I say I want password index 0 and say go, so please mouse at the required password prompt. So I'll click here in the text editor just so you can see. If I just say yes, there you go. You can see it just spat out password index 0. And if I just do that again, you can see it gives me the same password. And basically, if I want to say password index 1, I can say OK. And it spits out these nice long deterministic passwords. It's important to say that this is not magic, it's just basically behaving like a keyboard, which means that if your operating system has stuff in there that's going to be logging your keystrokes, it could log these passwords too. So it's a great feature as long as you understand this is basically functioning like a password manager. It is not a replacement for something like a hardware authenticator like a YubiKey, TOTP through an authenticator app, or something like that. Just like most wallets, we can also just add a BIP39 passphrase if we like. We can do that either by adding the letters and numbers manually or by adding entire BIP39 words straight from the BIP39 word list. So an easy way to get a passphrase that's quite long, complex. So there you go, definitely a full-featured wallet. The documentation on the Coldcard website is excellent. The two-part PIN for logging in is also a great feature in terms of the extra physical security that it adds. And the multisig functionality of the Coldcard is also extremely powerful. One of the other big strengths of the Coldcard is having a highly trust-minimized design. But on the software side, you know, while the Coldcard isn't open source and doesn't get the full security benefit of making its code available for other developers to build on, its source code is still available. You can do what's called deterministic builds and verify that what is on their GitHub repository matches the firmware that they are distributing for the devices. On the hardware side, the Coldcard also makes use of a general purpose microcontroller and two separate secure elements that both are sort of just available off the shelf and have very limited functionality and are from different vendors. So providing a lot of the benefit that secure elements provide in terms of physical security of the backups, at least when the device is off, without having to depend on there not being any specific backdoors in, you know, the secure element itself. I've also added to the hardware wallet feature comparison on my website, and you can see it's now taken the top spot. And if you want to see specifically what has gone into that score that it gets, you can click on the spreadsheet and see a full breakdown of all of the different features that it has compared to other devices in the market. If you think a Coldcard would help boost the security of your setup and would like to help me out in the process, I've actually got an affiliate link in the description. Likewise, if you have any specific questions about the Coldcard Mark IV or have any issues that you've run into that you want to pick my brain about, just leave a reply in the comments. I do my best to answer all of them. Thanks for watching, I hope that was helpful. Hit like if you think that other people would find this video useful, and hit subscribe if you'd like to be kept in the loop about future content I make that helps people stay safe in the crypto space and to recover if they get into trouble. If you have any questions about this video or a topic that you'd like me to cover, just leave a reply.